There's something hypnotic about that can. That trapezoidal shape, that metal key, the metallic grinding sound as it turns. Millions of cans just like this one are opened every single day. In homes across Nigeria, the Philippines, the Caribbean, the United Kingdom, Latin America, canned corned beef is one of the most consumed processed foods on the planet. And yet, almost nobody knows where it actually comes from, because the official story, the one that paints it as an Irish dish, a symbol of St. Patrick's Day, a Celtic tradition, is, for the most part, a fiction. This is what's really inside that can. First, let's clear something up. Corned beef has absolutely nothing to do with corn. In Old English, the word corn meant any small grain or kernel. In the 17th century, the British began calling salt-cured meat corned beef because of the large rock salt crystals, roughly the size of a corn kernel. They used to preserve it. No refrigeration, no vacuum sealing, no modern additives, just salt, and a lot of it. The principle is ancient. Salt draws moisture out of the meat, creates a hostile environment for bacteria, and turns a perishable cut into something that can last weeks, months, even years without spoiling. But it was in Ireland where this process first reached industrial scale. Not because the Irish were eating it, but because they were producing it for everyone else. And that's where the real story begins. In 17th century Ireland, cattle were sacred, not in any religious sense, in an economic one. Cows gave milk, pulled plows, and represented wealth. They weren't slaughtered for food unless they were too old to work. The meat that Irish peasants actually ate was, for the most part, pork, bacon, pig fat. That was what was affordable. Then came the Cattle Acts of 1663 and 1667. The British Parliament, to protect English landowners, banned the export of live cattle from Ireland. The result was a massive cattle surplus in the Irish market. Meat prices collapsed. Suddenly, there was cheap beef in abundance. But not for the Irish people. Anglo-Irish landlords and large processors saw the opportunity. Ireland also had a crucial advantage. Its salt tax was nearly 1/10 of England's. They could import high-quality salt from Portugal and Spain at rock-bottom prices. The combination was perfect. Cheap meat plus good, affordable salt equals the best corned beef in the world. Cork became the corned beef capital of the world. Its cured meat supplied the British Navy, the French Navy. Even during active war between the two nations, French ships would dock in Ireland to purchase their provisions, and it reached the American colonies. Ireland was producing the finest corned beef on earth, and the Irish could barely taste it. In the 1840s, a blight destroyed Ireland's potato crops. The potato was the staple food of the peasant class. More than 1 million people died of starvation. Another million immigrated. And throughout the famine, corned beef, which Ireland had produced for centuries to feed others, continued to be exported under British imperial protection. The Irish crossed the Atlantic with little more than the clothes on their backs. They arrived in cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago. And there, in the poorest neighborhoods of Manhattan, they found something they had never been able to afford back home: meat. But not the meat they expected. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Manhattan's Lower East Side was one of the most densely populated neighborhoods on Earth. Irish and Jewish immigrants from Central and Eastern Europe lived literally door to door. They shared staircases, courtyards, poverty, and ambition. In the kosher butcher shops of the neighborhood, Jewish immigrants sold a specific cut of beef, the brisket, a tough, fibrous, cheap cut, one that required long marinating and slow cooking to become tender and flavorful. The Irish immigrants discovered it, and they noticed something immediately: salty, cured, dense. That flavor reminded them of the Irish bacon they had eaten their whole lives. Substitution made: corned beef brisket with cabbage and potatoes, cooked all in one pot because rent was high and stovetop space was scarce, became the Sunday meal, the celebration meal, the St. Patrick's Day meal. What the world calls Irish food is, in reality, the food of Irish immigrants buying from Jewish butchers in New York City. It doesn't exist in Ireland. In Ireland, the traditional St. Patrick's Day dish is bacon and cabbage, not corned beef. Now, how did that artisanal product become what's inside the can you can buy in a supermarket in Manila, Lagos, or Lima? The answer lies in a small town in Uruguay called Fray Bentos. In 1863, German chemist Justus von Liebig, the inventor of the bouillon cube, established a meat processing plant on the banks of the Uruguay River. The surrounding area had millions of hectares of pasture land and quality Hereford cattle. The combination was ideal. In 1873, the factory began producing canned corned beef under the Fray Bentos brand name. The product was aimed at Europe's working class. Demand exploded. The factory supplied British troops during the Boer War, during the First World War, during the Second World War. In 1943, at the peak of the conflict, more than 16 million cans were exported from Fray Bentos in a single year. At its height, the plant employed 5,000 workers, nearly half the town's population, with staff from over 50 countries. It had electricity 3 years before Montevideo, Uruguay's own capital city. In 2015, UNESCO declared the Fray Bentos industrial landscape a World Heritage Site. Canned corned beef is not an artisanal product. It is a product of the Industrial Revolution, of the British Empire, and of the South American grasslands. Today, approximately 80% of the world's canned corned beef is produced in Brazil. Here is the real process, step by step. Step 1. Selection and thawing. The raw material is typically frozen beef, mainly lean trim cuts from the shoulder or round, cuts that aren't premium enough to sell fresh at full price. The meat is thawed in tanks with controlled circulating water. Step 2. Cutting and trimming. Pieces are cut into uniform blocks. Tendons, excess fat, and visible connective tissue are removed. Step 3. Brine injection. This is the key difference from artisanal methods. Instead of submerging the meat in brine for days or weeks, industrial plants use multi-needle injection machines that pump brine directly into the muscle tissue. The brine contains water, salt, sugar, phosphates, and, critically, sodium nitrite or potassium nitrite. The nitrite serves 2 functions. It inhibits the growth of dangerous bacteria like Clostridium botulinum, and it locks in that characteristic pink color the consumer associates with cured, fresh meat. Step 4. Vacuum tumbling. The injected blocks go into vacuum-sealed rotating drums. The mechanical tumbling gently breaks down muscle fibers, distributes the brine evenly throughout the cut, and improves the final texture of the product. Step 5. Filling and sealing. The meat is pressed into molds and loaded into the trapezoidal cans. That iconic shape was specifically designed to make unmolding easier. The cans are vacuum sealed at 70 to 80 kilopascals. Step 6. Retort sterilization, autoclave.
The sealed cans enter autoclaves, high-pressure chambers, where they are subjected to intense moist heat sufficient to destroy all microorganisms. This step is what allows canned corned beef to be stored at room temperature for years without refrigeration. Step 7. Inspection and labeling. Microbiological tests, visual seal inspections, and weight checks are carried out. Cans that pass quality control are labeled and packed for global distribution.
So, what's really inside that can? There's Brazilian beef trim, salt, nitrites, phosphates, 19th century industrial engineering, a Uruguayan factory that became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the hunger of Irish immigrants in New York City, kosher butcher shops on the Lower East Side, the British Empire's cattle acts, and centuries of Atlantic trade that moved protein from one continent to another. There is no Ireland inside that can, not in the romantic sense. There is something far more interesting: global history, colonialism, migration, food engineering, survival. The next time you open a can of corned beef, whether you're in Manila, in Lagos, in Kingston, or on the Lower East Side, you're holding in your hand something that crossed oceans, survived wars, and was invented by the whole world, except the Irish.